All right, guys, welcome back to the channel, Journey to One Bitcoin, where I sit with you every single week and we stack Bitcoin together. If you're new to the channel, the point of this channel is to show you my stacking strategy, what I do every single week to accumulate Bitcoin. I've been doing this for 6 years now. I've accumulated a nice stack of Bitcoin, and that hasn't been easy. It's been a process because Bitcoin is so volatile. If you've been stacking with me since we first started this channel in May, Bitcoin's gone up to 124,000 and it's dropped down to 100,000, and I think even when I started this channel it was below or sub 100,000, and so it's just been all over the place, and at the same time it's kind of been boring, right? Bitcoin's been really boring the last year or so. I think back in October of last year, Bitcoin was at 109,000. So Bitcoin really hasn't done much of anything over the last year, but these lulls in the market are when people get bored, they forget to stack, they just move on into other things, other more exciting things like gold. Gold shot up, and so I know a lot of people that started to move into gold and started chase those highs, and now look, gold has also gotten boring, right? So what you want this channel, what I want this channel to do is I want it to be a channel where you can follow along, and even when times get boring, even when Bitcoin gets volatile and scary or gets really exciting, you know that I'm here with you and I'm just stacking consistently, and I kind of want to be that channel where we stay consistent, we don't get too excited, we don't get too emotional, we just stay consistent and do our thing over the long term. And so use this channel as a reminder, right? So set the subscribe button, hit the notify button, and you can use this channel as a reminder to stack, right, every single week along with me. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I budget. So I'm budgeting for the month of November. I'm going to show you my exact plan for November, how much I'm going to allocate towards Bitcoin every single week. And of course, if you guys want to create your own sheet, go for it. If you want to use my exact same sheet, I leave a link in the description below. It's a free sheet. All you got to do is click the link and download the sheet. Very simple. Okay. So guys, just getting right into it. For November, a couple things are going to change in my budget sheet. And if you're using this sheet, you're going to start in the start category section. And so I've got listed out my monthly fixed expenses. Everything stayed the same: rent, electricity. In that case, no new spending subjects have been added. But in discretionary spending, which are basically variable costs, right? Costs that fluctuate month to month, I have added a couple things, right? I've got Thanksgiving coming up where I usually put in a little money to buy food and kind of do potlucks and things with friends and family. So I'll put something towards that so I can kind of budget for that and start budgeting for Christmas gifts that I'm going to be getting for my family in December. So I like to kind of get ahead of that before it starts to get too expensive. So we're going to do those two things in discretionary spending. Everything else is staying the same. Also, my rent went up slightly. I have a little bit of a higher rent going forward, so I'll be adjusting that into November and going forward. Okay. So jumping into the financial deep dive. Again, if you're using the sheet, all you've got to do is fill in the orange fields. So I've already filled out my spending month to month, but I do need to update the rent. That has changed, so let me get that number out right now. It's going to be, where was that? Here it is, 1465. So it's just a slight increase that's going to be going into effect. I've got everything else that stays the same. Thanksgiving, I'm going to go ahead and budget 100, and for Christmas, for right now, I'm going to budget 150. So that puts me here. Everything else has stayed the same. My investments haven't changed. Everything else stays exactly the same. Yep. Okay, perfect. So that leaves me with leftover monthly cash flow of $1,200, $1,207, based off of my income. And so weekly, I'm going to be putting in $301.71 this month for the entire month, I'll be putting in the full 1206.83 to 1207, right? But week to week, I put 25% just so you guys can see. I divide that by 4, and so it's $301.71 every single week will be the plan this month. Okay. What else do we got here? The goal continues to be 0.1 Bitcoin, which we are 81% of the way there based off of the amount that we've accumulated since the start of this channel. Current Bitcoin price is 110. That's a really cool feature of this sheet because it's a live Bitcoin price. If I refresh here, you'll see it gets updated. 110,598 now. So I want to see something here real quick. If I change this to 100%. So this month I should accumulate a total of about 0.1. So I should be at, by the end of this month, I should be at 0.09 Bitcoin, or 90% of the way to our goal. So hopefully, guys, between this month and December, if Bitcoin keeps in its range of 110 and stays boring, we'll hit our goal of 0.1 Bitcoin, which is a huge feat. I know I say this, like I've said this on channels, on videos back to back to back, but it is true. It's a massive feat to get to 0.1 Bitcoin. Not a lot of people are there. We're still very early to this space. People don't understand what Bitcoin is, the importance of Bitcoin. People still don't even understand how money works, right? They're picking it up little by little. More and more we're seeing people talk about fiat money. People talk about debasement of currency. That's something that a couple years ago you never even heard about, right? People were not talking about that. It's becoming more and more popular because, at least here in the US, the middle class is feeling squeezed, right? Things are getting more expensive. People are having a hard time with their daily expenses. So in that feeling, they're looking around and saying, like, why is this happening to me? And they need to figure out what that is. And as they start to dig into it, they quickly realize that their money is just losing value all the time, right? And so when you start to connect those dots, you start to look for solutions. What can solve this problem for me? And so more and more people, as they start to realize that, are going to start stepping into Bitcoin, right? And so, you know, how many people do you know that can write off buy one Bitcoin today? $100,000, just throw it at Bitcoin, while still keeping up with their daily lives, while trying to invest in a home, while doing all these other things in life. Just go ahead and throw $100,000 at Bitcoin. It's very difficult, right? But 5 years ago, buying one Bitcoin was not that difficult, right? 0.1 Bitcoin will represent that soon, right? People can get to 0.1 Bitcoin. Anybody out here can go ahead and get to 0.1 Bitcoin. I did it on this channel, showing you just consistency and discipline, right? I'm doing this on this channel. So over a 7-month period of just being consistent and disciplined, I'm going to get to that 0.1, right? 5 years from now, right, it's going to be much harder to get to 0.1. 0.1 could be worth $50,000 5 years from now, right? It could be worth $40,000 5 years from now. And so if that's the case, a lot of people are not going to have $40,000 if they could just throw it at 0.1 Bitcoin, right? So you'd be much further ahead than most of these people if you just stacked along, right? I know that everyone has different budgets, different incomes, what they can actually invest. That's not the point. The point isn't how quickly you get there. The point is doing it and just staying consistent. And you'll see that over time, you'll be able to hit your goal, okay? So really exciting that on this channel, we'll be able to get to 0.1 Bitcoin in probably a couple months if Bitcoin stays in this lull phase that it's in, okay? And if it drops down, we'll actually get there even quicker. So I'm okay with either or. So we're all set there, guys. I have my budget in place. Again, rent, electricity, phone, everything set. If you have other things that you have expense, if you have certain debts that you need to pay off, you'd add that in this debt part and then just add that into your plan. Of course, you might not have the same leftover monthly cash flow. You might have a lot more than what I have in leftover monthly cash flow. How you decide to allocate that towards Bitcoin is up to you. If you say, well, I have, I want to invest 50% a month into Bitcoin. Okay, no problem. That's what you invest. That's up to you and up to your plan, your future. Me personally, again, I think Bitcoin is the number one asset in the world, and so I'm going to invest 100% of whatever I have left over. Everything else is already accounted for. I've got it in my savings and investments. This cash is just to use, right? And how do I want to allocate that? Do I want to put that towards savings? Do I want to put that towards bonds? Do I want to put it into potential real estate investment? That's up to me to decide, and up to you if you're following along. But for me, I think putting 100% into Bitcoin is the best choice. Okay, so once I'm done with that, that's November. We're all set. We know what we're going to be able to spend for this month. Let me set this at 25% for my weekly, and I'm going to be buying 301.71, guys. So my next video, I'll be doing start my buys again, right? Start my buys for November, put in my first weekly buy of November, and just stay consistent throughout the month. Excuse me. And this is the accumulation log. If you haven't been following along, these are all the buys we've put in since May. So we've done quite a bit of buys. How many buys? We bought 24 Bitcoin purchases, all in these different price ranges, right? So we've been fluctuated from 103. Actually, we've never done sub 100. So 103 up to 117, I think 118 is my highest, but in that range, just bouncing around everywhere. Our weighted average is 111,000 across all our buys. All right. So again, guys, that is going to be my budget for the month of November. And all we've got to do now is execute. Simple as that. I don't have to think about this anymore. I know what I need to do for November. I'm buying $301.71 every single week of Bitcoin, no matter what. Goes up, goes down, doesn't matter. I stay consistent. I make my buys, and I move on with my life. That way, you're not. This doesn't have to be so difficult, right? You can do this in 5 minutes. Do your budget, get it set, plug in your numbers, execute. Done. Right? Simple as that, guys. All right, guys. All set there. I appreciate it. If you're liking this channel, make sure you like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Again, if you want a copy of this sheet, it is in the description. The link is there. All you got to do is click it and download it. Okay? All right, guys. Have a great one.